Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today, I'm joined by yet another Twitch streamer who I've had the pleasure of being a part of their community, and it has been a blast getting to know them on their Twitch streams. I am joined by Drew, but you may know him as DrewBearded on Twitch or Twitter. Welcome to the podcast, Drew.
Thank you so much for having me, buddy. I appreciate you asking me to be here. It's so exciting to be here for you.
It has been an absolute pleasure getting to be a part of your community. It's one of the things that when I got started with the podcast about 3 years ago, I had made a list of I want to kind of check off the boxes of I'd like to have an author on the podcast. I'd like to have, cosplayers. I'd like to have just this variety of people. And one of the last kind of bastions was I wanted a Twitch streamer. And I realized that to kind of understand what's going on with Twitch, I had to actually be a part of people's Twitch communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been the best thing that I've done in the past year is just get to know people on Twitch and hang out and chat and play games and just be such a part of the community and getting to know people like the other people in chat and then the streamer themselves. So it's been really fun getting to be a part of a number of different people's Twitch streams.
Oh yeah, you meet a lot of interesting people on Twitch for sure. I was very naive when I first started, but even in this very fast year that it's been, I've learned so much about the communities and the different audiences and even the different shows that you can watch on Twitch, which has been really amazing.
It has. It's definitely something, and we'll talk about your Twitch and streaming and stuff a little bit later in the episode. But it's definitely fascinating to see all the different kinds of varieties. I thought, it's just people playing video games.
Yep.
And it's totally way more than that if you find the right channels or what you're looking for.
Oh my gosh, you could find anything that you could possibly want to watch online. Somebody is out there broadcasting it, and it's nuts. It's nuts to me.
It's incredible. The setups that some people have for their channels is just I look at it and I'm like, I'm just trying to think of the space. In my house, I definitely don't have the space to do green screens and dedicated rooms. I'm like, wow, that's just so cool.
Yeah, it's definitely an investment of time and space for sure. And it's actually incredible to see people's unique use of their space. Let's say they don't have the amount of space that they would like to, whether it's, their basement or a room, just the things they can do with such a tiny room and make it look bigger than it is. It's amazing to me for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that a number of people, if you are a regular listener to this podcast, know is that whenever I get a guest to be like, yeah, I'm interested in coming on, I send out this sheet, this form. I'm like, hey, tell me what you're interested in. You sent back a number of different fandoms that you're into. And I want to jump right into one that's kind of got its popularity back again as far as video games go. And that is the Pokemon fandom.
Oh yeah, Pokemon, that's my jam.
Now, how did you first get into Pokemon? Because I think you and I are close in age, relatively.
Mm-hmm.
And did you grow up with the cartoon show? Was it the video games? Was it the card game? Where was your first entry point?
My first entry point to Pokemon was definitely the video games. I had seen it in middle school. Some friends of mine had these Game Boys, and I, of course, was intrigued by Game Boy at that point, but I didn't hear about Pokemon until they introduced it to me. It was on the bus to, I think it was a field trip to Williamsburg, Virginia. It was a school field trip for a week, and they were playing this. It was jumping between Pokemon and Legend of Zelda. So at this point, it was Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, the bare bones version of the series at this point, in comparison to what we have now. And I just remembered being enamored with the monsters and having to catch them and building them up. And I had already, began learning about RPGs with my best friend. At that point, he was introducing me to Phantasy Star and things of that nature. So when Pokemon was introduced to me, I was just so amazed and captivated by just the whole franchise between the amount of monsters and the fact that it carried over to the merchandise. And then I found out there was a show and I was instantly hooked. I was addicted to both the show and the game, and I just had to play it. The first one that I ever owned was Pokemon Yellow, though, which was fortunate for me because Pikachu is my favorite.
I was going to ask which of Pokemon was your favorite. That was my first Pokemon game too. Was Pokemon Yellow. I picked that up in a used Game Boy in college.
Oh man, okay.
So like I had been out of the handhelds for a while, because I remember having like the Game Boy and the Game Boy, like the original Game Boy, like way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Pokemon Yellow came out, I picked up like a used Game Boy Color. I was like, okay, I can play this game. This is something to occupy my time while I'm not studying or not writing my stuff or not playing video games on the consoles.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But
oh my gosh, yeah. Speaking of Game Boy Color, that the only Game Boy Color that I've ingrained in my brain, and I played Pokemon Yellow on it, was the teal one that they had come out with. That color will forever be like associated with the Pokemon Yellow cartridge, because I had transitioned from the Game Boy Pocket to the Game Boy Color. It was mind-boggling that I could pull the colors out of that. I was like, I don't know what's happening here. I got to put you down for a second.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I remember when Pokemon got big, because I was working at a Blockbuster at the time when the videotapes were coming out of the Pokemon episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things was they needed someone who had like daytime hours to kind of watch more of the kids stuff. So that way you could talk to the customers and talk to the kids about like what you're going to see and how is it, and just be conversational about it. And I had volunteered. I was like, I'll watch it. I had read an article about like this Pokemon invasion coming from Japan, and I was already into Sailor Moon at the time. I was like, Pokemon, whatever. And I totally got hooked. I got hooked after that first videotape. I was like, okay, yeah. I watched it. I watched that. I watched the first Pokemon movie. I watched probably like the second and third one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the whole events surrounding the movies. Oh, always a big deal. Always a big deal. I had to like beg my parents to please take me, please. I just want to. I gotta see Mewtwo. He's a bad guy. Let's go. And then the toy crossover for Burger King. Oh man, we ate so much Burger King. So much Burger King that year. Oh my goodness.
I miss good fast food toys from movies or like TV shows. Like, I grew up in like the mid 80s, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss like getting the collectible glasses. I miss like getting like the actual good toys. Now it's kind of weak sometimes.
I agree. Like that, my daughter brought home some toy, and it was like from a popular franchise. I want to say it was Barbie, or was it Barbie? Yeah, probably Barbie. And I'm like, dude, you're not even getting like a full doll like you used to. You used to get a mini Barbie when you had the boy girl, and now no, it's all like cardboard. Oh yeah, it's a toy. It's great. Like, play with this, kid.
Now, for your Pokemon gaming, did you like every release? Were you on it? Were you getting the next release and the next release?
I honestly was not. It took me so long to actually pick up Pokemon after it would release. Video games are definitely not at the top of the priority list while living at home. There were other things that needed to be taken care of for sure. And as much as I would have loved to be at like these releases like I am now, as a kid, it was something that I'd always aspired to do. So I would say it took many months before like actually getting a version of a Pokemon game, which was kind of sad because the way it lined up was I had gotten Pokemon Yellow, and then like way after Gold and Silver came out, I finally got my copy of Gold. And then by the time Ruby and Sapphire came out, I was doing other things with theater and singing and all that fun stuff. So I could not find time for Pokemon. So I had fallen off. I tried one more time with Diamond and Pearl, beat that, but then I didn't really even get back into it until Sun and Moon.
That's similar to me as far as like the video game stuff is. I played Yellow, but I never beat it. It's just more like a casual, like, let me pick something up and play it while I've got time.
Hmm.
And then my kids uh, got DSs a couple of years ago when they had like really cheap $100 DSs at from GameStop with the
So
Mario
do it.
theme on it,
Oh yeah.
and and Sun and Moon was coming out. And I was like, okay, I'll pick up a copy too. And one of one of the funniest things was, and I always tell this story to people, and they're like, "You went from Pokemon Yellow to Pokemon Sun and Moon." And I'm like, yeah, I have no clue who like 90% of these Pokemon are. I don't know like these new types that they have. And my kids have been watching like XY on Netflix or
Mm.
Black and White, whichever the series was that they had on Netflix at the time. And I was like, I have no clue like who these new people are that are traveling with Ash on the cartoon show. I have no clue who these Pokemon are. I don't know these types. Like, and as we'll get to Pokemon Sword and Shield in a minute, like there's these types, and I'm like, I don't know what they are, and why are there ice cream Pokemon, and
Oh yeah, yeah. When I saw
like
the
it's
ice cream
it's weird.
Pokemon, the
Like I
garbage
don't.
Pokemon.
There's like a skyscraper Pokemon. Like
There is a skyscraper Pokemon.
I, I am confused, and somebody's like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know," because I didn't really play Sun and Moon that much either. Like I played it just so that way they could battle me or trade Pokemon like whenever they felt like it. But
Because you're a good dad. That's what
well,
you do.
I mean, I try to be, and then they're like, "It's so easy to beat you," and I'm like, "I'm not playing this. Like, I'm not here to like." I'm not getting like the hours to play like you guys are.
Take advantage of this, kids. We don't have hundreds of hours anymore. We can't just dump hundreds of hours in a day because we're adults. It's not. It's sad.
It is sometimes. Like I picked up, and it's something else that we might talk about later. I picked up Final Fantasy X for the PS4 when I got that. I got like the remastered PS4 version. I was
Yeah.
like, I'll play it, and then like I'm 30 minutes into it. I'm like, I really need a save. I need a save sphere because I've got other things to do, and my kids are like, we want to watch the TV. How long are you going to be?
Oh my
I'm
god.
like,
Right.
I'm like, let me find the save sphere first.
Oh man. See, one of the reasons why I love Switch so much, it's like, oh, you want the TV? I got you. I got a save sphere to find, but I'll just pop this out real quick and I'll do that real quick. Which I was so stoked when they released all the remasters for Switch. I was
Mhm.
so pumped. I actually have 12 just sitting there staring at me in the face, as well as Final Fantasy 8. I'm just finding the right opportunity to play them. Right opportunity to play them.
Absolutely. Now, as we were talking, Sword and Shield has been out for probably what by the time this releases next week, it'll be about a month, give or take.
Yep, about a month at that point.
How do you like it? I know that there's been the controversies as there are with almost anything at this point.
Agreed.
About like the different things left out or put in, but just out of curiosity, did you like it? Did you love it? Is it something that you're glad that you're able to pick up and play?
I am very happy I was able to pick it up and play it launch day. I have some very, very wonderful viewers who pitched in and donated so I could get the game on launch. And so I've been super excited around this game. And I saw some of the negative reactions to the game and all of the animosity and like Game Freak lied and all of the controversy and all of this. I'm like, guys, I have no programming background and I just love the franchise. I'm going to enjoy the game. I'm going to ignore all the negativity. And so I sat there and I enjoyed every minute of that game. I know I'm biased. I know I love Pokemon, and I tried to look at it with like an even-keeled lens. And yeah, I really enjoyed my experience from beginning to end. Streaming it with you and everybody that decided to pop in on the stream was amazing. People getting to nickname all the Pokemon. And while I was playing it, as I saw the Pokemon that they did include, it almost made sense why they chose the ones that they did. Like based on the world that they created in Galar, they all almost fit. They almost fit. And even though they had sliced that dex in half, because obviously at this point there's over 900 Pokemon,
Mhm.
it didn't feel like you lost anything. it always felt the entire time like around the corner you were going to catch a new Pokemon or find something new. So I never really felt that you were missing any part of the Pokemon experience because you had so much to do. You had so many Pokemon to catch. And my friend Josh and I, we were talking, and there is so much game. There's so much game. Like, it took me a while. We just finished it last stream. And like you said, by the time this comes out, it's already been out a month. I haven't been able to like push through it, blow through it at all. Like, I had to grind off stream for it. So I've enjoyed my time with it for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely something where I've enjoyed it from the perspective of like having X and Y and having Sun and Moon on the 3DS, and I was like, man, I really want it to come back to console. For like years I've been waiting for it to kind of come back and be on where I can play it on the big screen eventually whenever I pick it up.
Mhm.
And what the world that they made is really beautiful. I love the different like towns that you roll into and how each one has its own thing going on. And I know that there's one that I saw, and I think the one person I saw streaming at that time, it's like this fairy like tree area. Like
I think it's Balonbia or something of that nature. I can never remember the name. It starts with a B, but it is beautiful. It's the fairy town.
Yeah, they said that their only thing about that was that like there wasn't much to it, that they wanted more to explore and more time in that area because of like that whole setting was just so pretty like to look at.
Oh my gosh, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. That if they made that town twice as big and the forest that you take to get to that town 3 times as big, that would have been amazing. I would have been down for that.
But yeah, every person that I've watched on stream has really enjoyed like getting to play it and getting to play it with like obviously their communities, because their community like they take the time to do raid battles together or trade Pokemon together, and it's fascinating to watch them do it like basically in real time.
It's amazing how many people Pokemon has a way to bring people together. Like, whether you love it or you hate it, you can really just get down to the nitty gritty and talk about something that you can come to terms with, or at least see eye to eye with in the series, right? Like, take for example the looks of the games, right? Everybody was like ripping that apart, how a tree in Sword and Shield didn't look like a tree in Breath of the Wild. But then here we are a month later and nobody's talking about the tree anymore. It's about like how much fun we're having with the freaking game, which was the point the entire time. The entire time. Like, I didn't worry about trees or bare bones desert the entire time. I was enjoying the experience of playing the game, getting through the story, enjoying my audience and my community coming in, playing, excited for battle, excited for max raids, which we're going to get into next week, which I'm pumped about because we're in the post game at this point. Because I found out that there's a post game story. I thought it was just the story and that was the end, and you go to max raid battles and trading and link battles, all that fun stuff. But no, there's post game story, so I'm super stoked to get to that.
Yeah, I was shocked to hear that when someone had made mention of it, and I was like, that's really cool, because that just adds on to your playability with your character rather than having to say grind to try to like do your shiny hunting and again, I come from the perspective of I have no idea what shiny hunting is, besides that it takes a really long time and perfect like conditions to get these Pokemon that look a little bit different. And
yep, that's really all it is. You basically summed it up in one sentence. I thought it was this very complicated thing as well, but then I ran into like 2 by accident, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And they're like, "That's really rare." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. It looks different." Like, what am I? Cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's really exciting when it happens because you're like, this isn't supposed to happen to me. What is this really? Is this true? Is this real? And then you get like nervous as hell because you don't want to knock it out. You don't want to be that guy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Now with Pokemon Sword and Shield, obviously like for right now, are we done with like Pokemon releases currently, or is there something? Because I keep hearing that there's something on the horizon of like a Pokemon Home or a Pokemon Camp or some, like, I don't know.
Pokemon Sleep is on the horizon. That's a thing. And then there's Pokemon Home. Yeah. Is it Home? Yes, Pokemon Home, I believe, is the name. That's the one that's coming in 2020. It's going to be the replacement for Pokemon Bank, which you're going to be able to move all of your bank Pokemon, I believe, to it. But the only ones that you're going to be able to transfer to Sword and Shield, from my understanding, is the ones that are in the game. Like, you're not going to be able to move like a Lugia over to it because it doesn't exist in the coding.
Gotcha. I was like, I keep hearing about things, but I don't know because I don't know.
I try to keep up with it, but like anything else, any fandom, you're just like inundated with information on a daily basis, and you're like, oh, so now that's a thing. Oh, this isn't a thing. What's real? What's not? And like, I do my best to stay out of the rumor mill, but you can't help it. You gotta look, you gotta know, and you're like, I want to be surprised, but do I really? I want to know. No, I need to be surprised. But I think the one that threw me off was the Pokemon Sleep when they announced that. Do you know anything about Pokemon Sleep?
I know nothing about it.
Okay, so there's the thing called Pokemon Sleep. It's gonna come with its own like sensor that you put under your pillow, and you're literally gonna play the game while you're asleep. As it's coming out of my mouth, it doesn't sound like real life. But I assure you, when we're done recording, go Google Pokemon Sleep, and you're gonna be like, he wasn't lying. When this is a thing. And okay, here's where I am on the Pokemon Sleep. Okay, I want to play it because I'm intrigued, slightly terrified, but I feel that if I play Pokemon Sleep, my wife is gonna leave me because she's gonna be like, bro, listen, I know you love Pokemon, but is this a line you really need to cross? I want to love you. I don't want to go to sleep. And all I'm going to be thinking about is you're literally sleeping and dreaming about Pokemon right now. Like, I think I need to draw the line. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm an adult. I can't be playing Pokemon Sleep.
Don't you play enough Pokemon during the day that now you got to play Pokemon Sleep too?
Exactly. That's the argument that I don't want to have. I will happily lose that battle and be happy.
Oh my goodness. So on top of Pokemon, we're going to switch gears to another one, which it's shocking to me, like growing up where Disney was and where Disney is, which is pretty much like the owner of, I don't know what it was, like 60% of like movies that are coming out into movie theaters or like
everything
Disney propriety, like kinda
everything.
It's so fascinating. But another fandom that you're into is Disney, and it's like you're into like all encompassing Disney.
Yes, all encompassing. And I wouldn't say like I'm terribly obsessed with it, but I did not realize up until Disney Plus's release how much Disney I fully enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really showed how many things like they now not only own but already did own as I was growing up. Like you see things like Gummy Bears on there, and then all in combination with that, all the old TV shows that used to be on the Disney Channel, and then you're looking at all the original movies that are coming out with, and you're just like, I'm not going to be able to watch any of this. Like there's so much.
Oh my goodness. That was when they announced Disney Plus and they posted like every single thing. Like they're blowing up Twitter for like 600 or 700 tweets in their thread of like, here's what this is, we're doing this and this and this. I'm like, okay, Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, Gargoyles, Gummy Bears, like where does it end? Like all of the stuff that I grew up on that I intentionally tried to get home on time so that I could watch that block of Disney shows is like,
Dude, such a good block.
And you got everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Like you mentioned all of the classics in that one sentence, and that when just having them easily accessible. I actually was having a conversation with somebody that's not in the US, and they were like, why are you so excited about this service? It's like, it's just Netflix, but it's Disney. I'm like, you just hit the nail on the head. You used to have to pay like $20 to $25 for some of these movies that you see, or some of the series that they no longer show on the television anymore. Like I can't introduce my daughter to that. And then
Mhm.
the service comes out and everything is there. Like I showed my daughter the gummy bears and she's like, "Oh, this is cool. It's like Sophia." And I'm like, "It's not like Sophia, but you know what? I'll take it if you're gonna watch it. I'll take it if you're gonna watch it."
That was the same thing because I remember, and I don't do it now for the people on the internet listening to this podcast. I remember trying to track down gargoyles at one point and finding like a huge file that took forever to download and the quality was garbage.
Mhm.
Or I was introducing my kids to the original DuckTales on Amazon and we had to buy like the full season for $20. And now it's like, oh, $7 and I have literally everything. I remember showing my kids the first episode of Gummy Bears on a garbage YouTube channel, whereas like they had the copy, it wasn't the best quality, but they loved it. And when they found out that Gummy Bears was on Disney Plus, they were like going crazy.
Heck yes. It's just the excitement that you can share not only with your family, but it brings back so many positive memories for so many people. Like I've heard of course like whispers of negativity towards it, but like nothing in comparison to the outpouring of positive reception for that service. Like I didn't even realize how excited I was going to be about Disney Plus until it was released. And I was like, "Oh my God, let's go right now. There's so much everything. Hit me. Just drown me in it. Drown me. Bathe me. Do it."
I know on the flip side of like Disney owned properties, one of the ones that everybody on like the people that I follow as far as like Twitter, they were excited once Disney had acquired 20th Century Fox and they confirmed that X-Men the animated series was going to be there. And it's like, oh my gosh, like that's another show that I grew up with in
Mhm.
high school watching. It's like such a great show.
I'm actually gonna be able to finish it. Like, I just remember always catching, like, X-Men when it was on, and it never
Mhm.
felt like I had a cohesive, like, storyline like the comic book.
Right.
I always felt like I was getting snippets of the story, and I'm like, "Well, what's gonna happen to Nightcrawler? What's gonna happen to Rogue? Like, did Rogue fall in I don't know what's going on." And Rogue, for some reason, sticks in my mind because she was such a unique character for me. I was like, "Oh, man." And that episode the episode where she, like who was it? Somebody mimicked Rogue and like messed up Gambit because Gambit was like, "Oh, you could touch me now," and comes to meet the real Rogue, and
Mhm.
he's out for like the rest of the episode because he tries to kiss her and he's just done. And I'm like, "Oh no, what happened?" It's like one of my
Yep, and
memories
man,
there. You know?
if you missed an episode, it was like you caught it again, and you're like, I have no clue what's going on. Like I remember, like Morph had showed back up. I was like, what? He's dead. Like I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But and that's one of the things that we've been trying to tell our kids is that hey, you know, growing up, if you missed an episode, sometimes you never saw it again.
It's so true. Nobody understands that. That's like of this generation, and I feel so old putting it in that context, but it's the truth. Nobody knows about the '80s thing that I saw online about the what is it? The tapes that you had to take the plastic off or wait for somebody to take that off.
Yep,
Nobody understands having the rewind machine. Do you remember the rewind machine?
I owned one.
Oh me too. Me too. I bought one of the cheap ones from like Walmart. I think my dad did. And like it did its job, but it was strictly for rewinding tapes because you couldn't rewind them in the VCR because it'd mess up your VCR.
Yep, or sometimes they would eat them. So
Oh, no, that was the word. I've only had 3 tapes in my history of owning VCR that had done that, and it was devastating each time because it was, of course, something that you loved
hmm
because it was always the ones that you watched over and over and over again.
oh, absolutely.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, like I worked at Blockbuster during the time of the VHS into when they transitioned to DVDs, and it was like, man, we used to have like 5 or 6 rewinders on the back counter, so that way we could just rewind the tapes that people didn't rewind. And it's like, man, you know,
I have to know.
just
I have to know because you have firsthand experience with this, and I need to know. How much did it make your blood boil when a person rented a tape and did not rewind it?
you know, it didn't really give me grief. I always hated the death threats over their $4 late fees.
You got death threats?
Okay, I'm going to tell this story because I don't think I've ever told it on the podcast. I was
Okay.
working at my first Blockbuster. And one of the people that worked there was a police officer who worked there part-time to kind of just get free movies and occupy himself. Person comes in, has like $4 late fee, which means it was late for like a day or whatever. And we document it. Like, we actually had a system where not only would we check it in, but we would confirm, like, yes, it checked in on this day and this time, so that way they couldn't be like, oh no, we turned it in and you guys just found it or whatever, because we'd always credit that stuff off.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like countryside of like Panama City, Florida, so it's not the best side of town, so to speak. And this couple rolls in and they threaten to go to their house and get their gun and come back to the store over this $4 late fee, but they do it to the off-duty police officer.
Oh no.
So they were kindly like escorted out of the Blockbuster and told never to come back. But yeah, we routinely got like people angry, upset, threatening us, telling we're going to take our business to movie gallery, and we're like, we don't care.
Like you were getting
Go.
paid like thousands of dollars.
It's like the one thing that people never understood is when a brand new movie came out, and I'm talking like if it's not for sale, so it's only available at like video stores to rent.
Mm-hmm.
Each tape was $100, which means to make up the cost to begin with, it has to be rented 25 times before you start seeing a profit.
Oh my gosh.
So you're talking like a 2-day rental. Well, that's 12 days, 12 days. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works out to be 12 days of it being rented before you're making profit. And by that time, like, there's other movies that are out, and it's just like this, it was this vicious cycle of, man, we really need to make money, but we don't want to order like these $100 tapes because eventually they're just going to start sitting there. And yeah, it is this weird like VHS cycle that once DVDs came out, it was like a game changer as far as making money. Of course, Blockbuster did what it did and didn't go in the good direction it needed to go in.
It didn't. It made bad choices.
Yeah, but it's totally not Disney related at all.
We just don't understand. No, it's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, the as far as Disney goes, like, you know, I'm very classic like 80s and 90s stuff growing up. But one of the things that I found interesting when you wrote back, because, you know, we're two I'm definitely middle aged, and you're less so middle aged. You're like tertiary aged.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
Yeah, but you mentioned a show that came out when my kids were growing up, and it was Sophia the First, and I really loved that you like of all things that people can write back about, it's very rare to get people writing about like what their kids are into, and I thought that was really cool because I enjoyed watching Sophia the First.
It's a very engaging show. When my daughter first had it on the Netflix, I was like, what is this? What is this show? It's another princess. Okay, it's a princess. It makes sense. But the values behind this princess show are so amazing. Like, between the world that she lives in and how much Sophia shows little girls, look, as long as you work hard and are a nice person and do the right thing, you can do whatever you want. And I think it's a wonderful thing to teach little humans, no matter what they identify as, that they can literally do whatever they want as long as they work hard and be nice. I think it has a great message. All of the characters have something to love about them, and it's engrossing. Like, I literally find myself watching this, and we watch it on repeat, by the way. Like, I've seen the entire series. I can't even tell you how many times at this point. I probably know the names of the damn episodes at this point. But when we found out that there was only 4 seasons and we were about to embark on season 4, we all got real sad. The wife, the daughter, and I, we were like, "Oh, this is it. This is it." And they tie it up so sweetly. I love this. I love the show.
Yeah, my kids eventually transitioned out before like I think they were transitioning out when they had the Elena of Avalor, Sophia the First, like kind of spin-off thing happening.
Yeah, those actually were really surprising. They had mini series within the series, which I thought was really neat for a kid's show. Because I remember like certain shows that I used to watch as a kid, and I can't remember off the top of my head which ones, but I know there was like always two-parters. But this was the first like kids show where they literally named this segment of the show like a mini series type of thing. Like if you were to show a kid, I don't know, Princess Ivy, that Princess Ivy segment, or the Elena of Avalor, that 3-part segment, it could literally be its own little mini movie.
Right. Yep.
Which blew my mind. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's one of the things that when my wife and I, before we even had kids, I was like, man, I really don't want to take them to see like the garbage kids movies that came out in theaters. I was like, please don't. Like, I don't want to take them to like garbage kids movies. Like, it has to be good stuff. And even the TV shows, like, I feel like we kind of lucked out when our kids were born, which was like 09 and 08, where by the time they're coming up, like we had some really good Nick Jr. shows and really good like Disney Junior shows where it's not talking down to the kids, but yet it's also including enough stuff to like keep us adults entertained and get invested in the stories. And I'm like, I'm looking around, I'm like, man, like this stuff is really good. And like, there's voices of people that I recognize as voice actors from other things.
Yes. Like even in its Sophia, the last season, you have a whole bunch of musical theater talent. You got Megan Hilty, whoever plays I can't remember his name, but the person that plays the unicorn is another musical theater star. And like my wife flipped out because she was like, "Oh my god, these are all like musical theater people. What is life right now in Sophia of all things?" We're like, "Oh!" Like it's great. Sophia's great. If you haven't, anybody listening to this right now, if you haven't seen Sophia the First, even if you don't have children, it's wonderful. It's engaging. It's on Netflix until it comes to Disney Plus because it's Disney. So watch it. It's great.
It is. It's one of those things where you're so caught off guard. Like, and one show that my daughter got into was the My Little Pony series, and I was like, I remember watching My Little Pony back in the '80s with my sister, and I remember walking by and I was like, I recognize that voice, and sure enough, like one of the ponies was Weird Al Yankovic.
No way.
Yeah, they have a number, like, because I think they hit like 7 or 8 seasons of the show, and they have a number of episodes where it's like guest voices are on the show, and you're like, I know that person. I know that person. It's so like cool to see or hear like these people that like from TV shows or movies or other animated series being like on shows that are on now. It's so crazy.
Small. It's almost small world feeling.
Man, is there anything that you're looking forward to with Disney coming out in the future? I mean, I know Frozen 2 just came out, and I have yet to see that, but
Oh man, I just saw Frozen 2 with the daughter and the wife, and let me tell you, it is so good. It is better than the first one. I'm not gonna spoil anything for anybody, but if you loved the first one, watch the second one. I will warn you though, it is a little darker. I was not expecting how dark of a turn it went, but it's worth the viewing. And I'm obsessed with that track Into the Unknown, especially because Panic at the Disco does a version of it, and I'm like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. But yeah, no, I'm interested in getting into The Mandalorian because I want to see Baby Yoda in the flesh. I've only watched the first 15 minutes of The Mandalorian. I want to see that. The Lady and the Tramp original movie that's on there, I want to see that. That movie Noelle. Have you got a chance to see that yet?
Yep, we did watch that. I think last week.
Pretty good, pretty darn good for being a service movie, as I call them now. Any movie that's made for the online service, I just call it a service movie. Which I give all of the online service credits for the movies that they produce, because the production value that they're using is way better than any made for TV movie I've ever watched in my existence. I have to give them credit because they really are. as much as the prices are increasing and all of that fun stuff, they really are using the funds to produce like high caliber entertainment for our enjoyment.
And not only that, I think one of the things that is incredible about these streaming services, Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, they're taking risks where these other like studios passed and decided they didn't want to do it. And some of the stuff that's come out has been really good.
And I feel so bad. I haven't been able to work into my schedule enjoying some of these movies. Like I just saw an ad from Netflix the other day about like, oh, we have these new movies coming out, and there was like I Am Dolomite or something, and then there's a movie with Meryl Streep, and then another one with what's his face from Star Wars, the Kylo Ren dude.
Oh, Adam Driver. I heard that movie was
Yes.
good.
Like all of it looks like really great work, and it's just it all goes back to our previous conversation, finding the time to consume all of it.
There's not enough time.
There isn't enough time, and I feel like as you get older, you lose more and more time because more and more things need to get done.
I always feel bad because there are times where I have, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus. There's all stuff that I could be watching, and I'm like, you know what? I could watch another 8 seasons of The Office yet again and just binge watch that.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Oh man, my speaking of binge watching shows that you've seen 15 times, my wife loves to watch Gossip Girl. Like when she can't decide what she wants to watch, she will sure as hell binge some Gossip Girl, and she always tries to get me to watch. I'm like, I don't know. She's like, it's so good. You just need to. I'm like, I don't know. I like see snippets of it. I'm like, I don't know. That's all. That's you. You can enjoy that show without me. That's a you show.
That was me for a while with my wife and Outlander. Like she's like, "Oh, it's so good, it's so good," and finally, I'd heard enough from a number of people that I have had on as podcast guests talk about Outlander. I was like, "Okay, you know what? I'll watch Outlander with you, and we'll do a rewatch before the next season comes out." And the first season was a little bit rough, but I got hooked, and I was like, yep, here's another show for me to add on to my list of watching when it comes out.
And I bet you she looked at you when you were done. She was like, I told you.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Now, you were the first person that I've heard talk about this Outlander series. Or it may have just been in passing and I didn't realize it. What service is it on, and where can I watch this? What is it about?
Okay, Outlander is on Stars, I believe. So you're going to have to get an email address and sign up for a free 7-week trial or a free 7-day trial. Although I believe on Netflix they have the first 2 seasons.
Okay.
So you can do that, and then you're going to have to just figure out where to go from there if you like it or not. It is about a woman in the 1940s in England during World War II. She goes to this like retreat with her husband who's back from the war. Like the war had just ended. And she goes to they go to this place in, I think it's either Ireland or Scotland, I can't remember, and I swear people don't kill me about it. And goes to this like these like sacred stones essentially, and she touches one. And she gets transported back in time to like the 1600s ish time period, 1600s.
Nice.
So she's trying, and like she is she's a nurse. She's trained as a nurse, and so she's got like these nursing skills, and she has to kind of like make her way in this time period, and she gets caught up like in clan stuff between the different clans going on. And it kind of just rolls from there, and it goes through a period of history that you really get like in touch with, and it's really cool. And I always heard it described as Game of Thrones for women.
Oh,
because there's a lot of really good looking guys with accents. Plus, she's like I think the actress's age is probably like in the 40s or 50s.
Okay.
But it's all good. Like it's not anything where like it is more on the dramatic side, but there is action and there's some brutal action, because you've got the I think Irish, Scottish, so bad. Trying
You're
trying to
gonna be
trying to break away from England, and so
Mm.
they're trying to have like this revolution going on, and like they get caught up in that, and it kind of goes from there. And I don't want to spoil it too much, but I think it's a really good show. It's based on a book series, so the books are out there, and I'm sure they're more in depth. I never read them though.
Okay. And is the Outlander the name of the books, or is that just the name of the show?
It is the name of the show, and I believe it is like I think it's called like the Outlander series.
Oh, okay.
But then each book is something else. Like the second book is like Outlander, like Dragonfly and Amber, or something along those lines.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's a good show, and I would say if you're looking for a show to watch with your wife, and she's into like historical fiction and stuff, it's really good.
Oh, for sure. She definitely is. She loves that show. Oh, now I'm gonna forget the name of it. It's an English show. It's about Call the Midwife. That's it right there. Call the Midwife. That's a good show.
Yeah, my wife
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
it's
did not
good.
watch that one.
Every time she makes me sit with her like every once in a while, and that one I don't mind because it's actually very compelling stuff, and they go through And I think I got a soft spot for birth because of my daughter. That's all. I think I'm just like, dude, because oh man, I think one of the funniest things about, and I know this is really random, but it just popped in my head about the day that my daughter was born. The nurse the nurse straight up was like, you could touch her because I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't know, it was a baby.
Oh my gosh. When we had our oldest, they had come by before like labor had like really gotten into it, and they said, we got a lot of nursing students here that haven't seen a birth. Would you mind if you go into labor, would you mind if the nursing students just kind of came in and watched?
Dude,
And
same thing.
we're like, yeah, that's fine. That's totally cool. So when the time comes, not only so we have like the midwife there and then the actual nurses, and then we have like 7 nursing students that are hanging out there.
Oh my
And then
God.
because my son was so big, there's like the risk of like the shoulder breaks or something, and so they
Yep.
had like the emergency team like kind of on standby, like in the room just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out, and there's probably like 15 people in the room as he came out, and they gave him right to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's really heavy. And they put him on the scale, and they're like, yeah, he's 11 pounds 7 ounces.
Whoa, that's a big baby.
And they is hilarious seeing him like in the nursery, like when they're bathing him, he just looks like a 3-month-old.
Oh my
And you see
God.
like these other little tiny babies, like 6 pounds, 7 pounds, and you're like, yeah, there's my little chonker right there who could club a baby seal with his arm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
Doing it right.
Now, I wanted to ask before we get into talking about streaming,
Sure.
specifically on your stream, either yesterday or the day before, you had mentioned, because you had mentioned that you had lived down here in Orlando and you worked for Universal,
I did.
and I was very curious because you said you were trying to, I know that the proper terminology is like being friends with. You were trying to be friends with Spider-Man.
I was trying to be friends with Spider-Man. I never got the opportunity to.
What was it about that specific character? I mean, not that Universal doesn't seem to have that many character opportunities. I mean, I think they have a little bit more now with like the Harry Potter world and stuff. But just I'm curious about like you and Spider-Man.
Oh, I've always had a sweet spot for Spider-Man. Something about his stories were always relatable to me. And at the time that I was very obsessed with Spider-Man, um, there was a character named Morpheus who I think Jared Leto's going to be in a movie
Hmm.
soon as Morpheus.
I've heard
Or is it Morbius? Morbius, not
Morbius.
Morpheus.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
Morbius.
Morpheus is Matrix. Wrong person. But Morbius, I loved the comics that I got. There was like a 2-part series where I guess Morbius was about to kill Spider-Man and like he really bit him, but he ended up escaping. And something about Spider-Man has always drawn me to him because and it was even he even quoted himself in Into the Spider-Verse, which is on repeat a lot in the house.
Hmm.
Like no matter how many times he gets knocked down, he always finds a way to get back up. And that was always for me very admirable about that character. Like no matter how much bad stuff would happen to him, because I felt like every 5 minutes something bad was happening to this dude, and I felt awful. I just wanted to give him a hug all the time. Um, so just a part of him has always resonated with me as a human. Um, I just always was uh, encouraged to do my best, and no matter what happened, like push through it so I can be okay. Because if Spider-Man can do it, like I could do it.
Hmm.
And I wanted to be just a sassy man. I want to hang out with Spider-Man and be like sassy, but then be cool and like do all the poses and stuff. Like I worked on my web slinging,
Uh-huh.
like with the hands. It never came to be. Never came to be.
Sad times.
Sad times. Sad times.
Yeah, that's the one thing with, now that Disney owns Marvel stuff, and it's like, man, I really want like Marvel to have like the stuff at Disney World, but because of how the contract works out, it's like I don't think that'll ever happen. And it's like, oh man, never.
It probably will depend. Like I'm mark my words. I'm gonna give it a few years, but there's gonna be a way that's something of that nature is gonna happen. I'm calling it right now.
Calling it right now. Put it on
Calling
the,
it right now.
put it on the notes.
That's right.
Now, as I said at the beginning, I know that I did not come to your stream naturally. I know that I was a part of a raid. I was trying to figure out, like, for the past couple days, like, which person that I watch rated your channel, and I cannot for the life of me remember who it is, and I feel terribly sorry for that person because I always try to like hang out with particular people's raids when they go raid channels.
Yeah.
And you have this magnetic energy about you during streaming to where I hit that follow button and I was like, I like this dude's channel. I like playing the games. I like playing Jackbox. I like watching you stream your games. And I I I just have to say, like, the community that you have is a lot different than the communities that I'm a part of in different streamers' channels.
Mhm.
Is you have this very eclectic group of people, and I love them all.
Yeah, they're all great. Everybody that hangs out in this stream. And Tails, to be 100% honest, I don't remember which raid you took a part of either. But it honestly feels like you were there since day one. You know what I'm saying? And that goes for anybody that regularly sticks around, or even like there was somebody that came in last night, even 915 Beast or whatnot. They hadn't come in for a while, but I remembered them because
Mhm.
my stream is a place of warm and welcome, and anybody and everybody can be a part of the stream in some way, shape, or form. Like with the Blues now, their little duo that we got Raffle Jane, we've got all these characters, so to speak, in my show, and I could not feel more grateful or blessed or whatever you want to call it when any of you guys come down and hang out. It really means the world to me, and it's so exciting that people do want to come back and hang out and have fun, and it's one of the best parts of the experiences that I've had so far, and I'm so appreciative that you do come back and hang out and have fun.
Now, how did you first get into streaming? Because it's definitely a leap of getting into it, like that first step, that first planning. Like, even like I stream occasionally, like maybe I just streamed for the first time last week in almost like 6 months, but it's
Mhm.
more like it took me weeks to like figure out like setting things up and testing things and getting started. But like, what was that initial drive for you to start streaming?
To start streaming, I had heard whispers of this thing called Twitch, and like barely whispers, maybe echoes of this thing called Mixer. And I was always curious. I was like, well, why would people want to watch people stream video games? I don't get it. Again, back to our previous conversation, I was just as naive as you. I did a lot of theater and performance work in my 20s, and in having a family and moving and just like, growing older and stuff, and not having the luxury of, if I'm not happy where I'm at, or I wanted a different change of pace, just saying F it and going to audition and doing all that fun stuff. Because in your 20s, you could do that and get away with it. But now I have a little bit, more to more to contend with. I can't just do that. I was looking for a creative outlet because I am through and through a creative. I'm through and through an artist. And I was just like thinking and racking my brain. I was like, I can't audition. That's not a realistic option right now. I can't audition for a cruise ship. That's really not a realistic option right now. Nothing is flowing through me musically. What the hell am I going to do? And I started doing some research and asking around, because a buddy of mine at work was like, hey, I stream. Do you want to watch my stream? And I'm like, yeah, it's actually my buddy Game Boy Brett. So you guys can thank Game Boy Brett. Go check him out on Twitch for the DrewBearded that stands in front of you. And he mentioned that he streams, and I watched him, and I was like, oh, this is not at all what I thought it was at all. And then I kind of recollect going back, what is this, 6 or 7 years now. My best friend who introduced me to Fantasy Star, who is also a streamer, he goes by From Bad to Worse Gaming. We had been doing some videos and whatnot, video gaming and stuff like that. And he kind of mentioned like he was going down that route, but I guess I didn't really pay attention to him and where my life was at the time. It just didn't pan out then. So fast forward to now, and I'm like, oh, okay. So let me research in how to do this properly. Okay. So I ended up finding Gael Level and Harris Heller and Wild for Games and Ashney Christ and all these big name streamers and bigger name streamers. I don't know if everybody knows who they are and what they do and good practices and like what your camera should be and all of the behind the scenes stuff. And it became more clear to me that, oh wait, it's not just flipping on a camera and playing a video game. There's production value. It's a show. You're telling me in my basement I can make a show and I can do whatever I want on the show, and as long as it's engaging and the people that come to hang out will come back, and I can do this for my enjoyment and fall in love with it, count me in. Let's go. So I spent about 3 to 4 weeks researching like what do I need? I was rocking a busted computer at this point. Like it's a 10-year-old beast, but it got the job done for those for those first couple of months. It did the damn thing. And so I did the research. I made sure like I drew up my overlays. I was looking at the cost of like some of the more professional overlays and all of that fun stuff. And I was like, so I don't have the capital to invest that much right now. What do you need to create an overlay? So I did some more research and I looked online, looked what other streams looked like. And I was like, okay, I could use Procreate to draw this because I have my iPad. I've got iPads. I've got iPhones. I could use those. Can I use those for my camera? Yeah, no. Okay, I can. And then just discovering all of the pieces. And then I put together my first show. I started, I approached this wildly different than anything performance-wise. Like I started promoting my stream before I hit live. And I didn't even realize what I was doing naturally, but I was taking everything I had learned as my time as a performer and practicing it, but for something that I was creating from the bottom up, which I'd never really done correctly before. And by the time I hit live, I had an audience. I had a show. I had a game that I really enjoyed playing, which was Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Because I was like, let me try this. It was really supposed to be, let me try this. Let me see if I can do it, even if this is something that I really enjoy. And it's this beast that I love. I love because it's consistently transforming into an even bigger beast, and I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see what happens.
For people that haven't watched your stream,
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, like, not only like you, number one, you're standing, which is incredible to watch, is just to see you kind of like walking around and being a lot more fluid than the people that I also watch, that are sitting in their chairs and playing the games or drawing or whatever they happen to be doing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you are all over
Yes.
your area, like doing just so many different things. You have a camera on your dog Nala, which is
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Thank you.
You've got the camera on you. You have what's going on in the game. You've got chat going on, like, on the side. Like, it's probably one of the streams that, like, when I'm in the stream, I'm like, man, there's just so much for me. Not only like just like chatting, but just to like take in and watch and enjoy and just be a part of like that community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is the intent of the show, because every week I treat every stream like a show. It's a show or a performance, and I want folks to be engaged, and I want them to have a great time. And I feel like every element that I've put into the show thus far has my audience at the forefront of my mind. It's like, what's going to be enjoyable to do? What's going to be enjoyable to watch? I know some streams I'm going to be playing a single player game. How can I add more value for my audience to want to hang out, want to chat, want to play? Like, that's where all of the raffles come from. That's where the stickers came from. That's where including the chat in my game view came from. Because honestly, I know a lot of streamers choose not to put the chat on the game, but I love the effect it has, because honestly, if I opt to put, let's say, a clip up, or if I opt to put a playthrough on my YouTube, you are a part of that show. You are forever a part of that episode of the show. And I think that's something that brings a unique flair to my show, as well as gets everybody involved. It's just this subtle way to say, hey, look, I see you there, and I want to include you on my journey, and let's go on this journey together. Let's do it.
What were some of the first games that you started with besides Let's Go Pikachu? What did you kick off your streaming life with?
Well, that was how I kicked it off. And then once we got through, I think about halfway, I was like, oh, I need to play something else just for me. Like, Let's Go Pikachu is great, but I need to play something else for me, because I had a docket of games that I was supposed to play, right? Those hashtags, if you follow me on Instagram, those hashtags that I consistently use were based off of games that I was supposed to play in my docket, like things like The Way and Lumines Remastered and Flame in the Flood, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But the second that I added Jackbox to my roster, that became the main game of the channel. And so I base my weeks, unless there's some special event, around those mini games, because I have so much fun having an excuse to play these fun little games with a whole bunch of random people. It's wonderful. It just brings everybody together. Who doesn't love a good party game? Who doesn't love a good party game? But like, if there's a game that I'm passionate about, or a game that's been in my backlog for so long that I'm like, I really want to play this game, and I really want to beat it. Like, that's where the original intention for the channel was. I was supposed to take my backlog of games that I've accrued over the last year and many years at this point, and play them on stream and hang out and beat these games, devote time to beat these games. But it's amassed into this wonderful creature that I love.
I have to say, like, I first found out about Jackbox games about a year ago. One of my friends came over and we played it, as his family was hanging out with us, and like, we're all playing it on our iPhones and iPads and stuff, and got really into it. And then another streamer that I regularly follow decided to do like once a month Jackbox, and but their stream is very family friendly, so you got to make sure that your answers are basically like PG 13 ish. So it's totally a different thing. And then when I was on your stream, I was like, man, like you can just let go. Depending on like the game that you're playing, you can kind of just go out there a little bit further and stretch it.
Just a little bit. Yeah, we like to call it being tastefully inappropriate because I
Mhm.
try I try to rein in some of the answers just because I do want to have my daughter be able to enjoy it. And you and I both know how sometimes the internet can be. There's been a couple of cases where you're like, really, really, dude, now I have to end the game.
Yeah.
But I do try to make it at least accessible to everyone for the most part. But when you're dealing with the internet and dealing with every kind of individual, you are running that gamble that you're going to get that one dude that's just like, I'm saying whatever I want now.
Yep. And I gotta say, yes. So yesterday, which is the 7th, we
Mm.
played Push the Button, which was the first time I'd ever played that.
Oh, so good. It's so
So
good.
like I'm trying to like, because I kept hearing like, oh, you can't play Push the Button unless you're in like the same room with people.
Oh,
I
no
was like,
way.
I don't know. Like I think, and after playing it, I'm like, yeah, we could totally play this game on stream. And I even commented to the voice actress who does the ship's computer. And I was
Mhm.
like, hey, we played your game yesterday. It was a lot of fun. And
Oh,
she's like,
cool.
and she wrote back, she's like, I hope you didn't get out the airlock. I was like, nope. I survived, whether as alien or human until I died because we didn't get the right people.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Oh, that was ridiculous. The ridiculousness happened last night.
Oh my goodness. So you primarily are on Jackbox, and then you
Mhm.
you have around you, like on other days, you do tend to like play some of the games that you're into, like you just wrapped up Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield we wrapped up, which we're gonna probably do the post game story, and then I will, because it's Pokemon season, as I keep calling it, we'll probably have some max raids and battle nights coming
Mhm.
on soon.
What
Um,
what other games are you looking to kind of like fill in on non Jackbox days?
Definitely Final Fantasy 12 because I want to beat that and maybe get some help from my fellow beardies with the RPG ness. Because okay, as much as I love RPGs and as much as I understand Pokemon, I know I don't play them right. Like I know I don't. I'm pretty bad, and like when it comes to role playing games, the decisions that I make are very questionable. Very questionable. So it'll be nice to see from another perspective how wrong I'm playing these games and maybe be guided in the correct direction. Another game that I kind of want to play on stream is probably Monster Hunter Generations. What else? What else? What else? Oh gosh, there's so many good games that I want to play. Oh, Untitled Goose Game. I know I missed like that initial hype for it,
Hmm.
but I want to play that game on stream so bad. It's so funny. Do you have any experience with Untitled Goose Game?
I have not, and it's actually the one game where I've been wanting to watch somebody stream it, and every time I think I'm going to be able to, like they've ended their stream or they've moved on to something else. Like, dang,
The
man.
worst, the worst. Man, oh, I want to play that game. It truly is a hilarious experience. If you do end up catching somebody streaming or myself streaming it, oh, I can't wait for you to experience that game because it's ridiculous.
I will say one of the funniest things that I've been watching recently is a different streamer stream Pokemon Sword and Shield, but they've never played a Pokemon game. So like this was like their
Wow.
first Pokemon experience, first like they had the guide to figure out like who like which types were better against other types. But I remember like she went up against the fairy gym leader Opal, who's asking her questions, and she's like, I don't know. And people are like, yeah, you didn't talk to anybody in town. You just you're not talking to anybody at all.
That is the one thing that I will do. I will talk. But yeah, no, you in any RPG, you gotta talk to people. You got to.
Absolutely. You got to talk to NPCs.
That's why they're there. That's why they're there.
So how I don't know if I asked this. How long have you been streaming?
So I am, as of December 26th, will have been streaming 11 months.
Okay.
hmm
So you are almost at your year.
Almost at my first year streaming, I am. And the only true goal that I had for the channel, because, little old naive Drew, I didn't know any better, was 700 followers. And we actually surpassed that goal. So now I'm just like, well, whatever happens, happens. Let's go. Let's make, let's get bigger. Let's do it. Let's see what we can do.
How's the first year been, so to speak? Like, has it obviously it's exceeded expectations as far as like follower count, but from the time you started to now, like, what's your experience been?
Oh my God, it's been so positive. I've met so many different positive walks of life between my social media, between Twitch itself. Like you just run into so many cool, kind-hearted, warm people. As long as you are looking in the right places. Like if you're constantly looking in, the wrong boats, you're going to find the wrong people. But I've been very, very fortunate that this year on Twitch has just flown by, and I've met all sorts of different performers and streamers and awesome people in the audience that have all sorts of other things going on. And I couldn't have asked for a better first year, to be honest with you. And the fact that this is just the beginning is really exciting. I've never had any project that I've been a part of personally grown as successfully as this one has. And the thing is, like I said, it's only the beginning. I just can't wait to see where it goes from here.
Any goals? I know that you said like you just want to see where it goes, as far how far you can take it. But
Mhm.
let's say next year, what like do you have something that you want to do? Do you want to have like a target? Are you trying to like what do you want for your channel?
As far as content is concerned, I definitely want to have I have an idea percolate in the back of my head. I'm working on it. I have like a name idea picked out, but it's more like a late night type of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a late night with James Corden or a late night with Stephen Colbert, something of that nature. I'm still working out the kinks and I want to make sure it's right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to play around with that. So that's a goal for next year. As far as growth, I'd like to grow as much, if not more, in the next year. So maybe about double the amount of followers that I have now. And as far as long-term goals, definitely partner. Partner is definitely up there on my list of things to do. And then my ultimate goal is to get 2K subs so I can make it, enough where I can go part-time and really dive into seeing what I can get away with and what I can create.
Exactly.
Because
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine, you're fine. It's truly one of the most freeing, creative experiences that I've had thus as far as any performing. And the beautiful thing is, it's so accessible for me. Like on any breaks I get to create, on downtime. If I have an idea, I can just pop it in, see if it works. And I'm still learning so much as well. Like you don't, especially if you've never done it before, you don't realize how much you're going to learn in such a quick amount of time, because you really do have to be very dynamic and very willing to evolve, because this medium changes faster than any medium I've ever been a part of in my entire life.
Yeah, it is. It's something where, and I talk to my wife about it on occasion, and I talk to some other people around that are kind of like in my age range of, if you had told us, like when we were kids, like, hey, there's going to be that time where you could possibly like not work in that typical like cubicle sense of work, and you could make money playing games, I would have been like, yeah, right, whatever, because that's how it was back then. But
Yep.
to see what has come out of like the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years with e-games and streaming, and the amount of people that I see like breaking like the 1,000 followers, the 2,000 followers, the people that are on that cusp of getting partner and like doing like the partner pushes, and like seeing the community like rally around them, like it's incredible to watch. And it's incredible, like I get scared though. I get like really nervous because I'm from that the generation of, being told you need to have the 401k, you need to have the health insurance, you need
Yep.
to do this. And, I have my 3 kids, I have my wife, I got the house payment and all these things that go along with it. And it's like, man, like, to have that opportunity is awesome. But I know, like, for me, it wouldn't ever be something that I'd be able to really pull off, because it's just, I think I'm past that point of like doing it. But I'm so fascinated and involved in other people's things where I'm like, I can be a part of it. Like, I can lurk, I can hang out, and I'm just one person, but I can help with their numbers or with their chatting, and just like push them in that direction, or tweet about them and be like, hey, come watch these people playing these cool games.
Yeah, no, and that's, you truly are the backbone of what everybody's trying to accomplish, right? Because there are so many different ways to be a part of anybody's community. You just being there, you just typing in chat, you just saying, how's your day? You pushing out tweets and stuff of that nature. That's helping, that's helping push somebody's name out there that might not have necessarily gotten that reach that day. And that's really admirable, and that's awesome.
So we've got the goals that you got for your channel, and I'm super excited to see what you got coming out next. And I'm really wanting to catch some of your Final Fantasy streams, because as we talked, and I think it's like this recurring theme of, man, our time just kind of disappears.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I was fortunate enough to do is I caught somebody streaming Final Fantasy IX, which is a game that I played for probably like 20 or 30 hours and then had to stop. I never was able to pick it back up in my college years. And it's one of those games that I'm like, man, I really regret not getting to beat it. And I was able to watch her play through the entire story.
That's awesome.
And man, like, just getting to kind of like be there and watch it and watch the ending and watch how, like, in my time, like, I don't have the time to sit down and play the game, but dang, if Twitch doesn't give me the time while I'm working to watch other people play the game.
That's one of the beautiful things, right? Like all those games, that backlog that I was talking about earlier, if I get to a point where I'm so inundated with work at my 9 to 5 or, creatively, I know that if I want to see a story, somebody's going to be playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? There's a double-edged sword to that, because if somebody's playing that game and they've got, let's say, 2 views and they're having a bad day, you're going to become that third viewer and turn their day right around,
Mm-hmm.
engaging with them and being excited with them and sharing that love of the game that you too want to enjoy, but you just can't.
Exactly. So for people that have listened to this podcast episode and they've made it to the end, where can they find you on the internet, whether it's streaming or just like any social media in general?
If you search for DrewBearded, you will find me on every single thing. That's what I have. I have named all of my socials DrewBearded. I have named my YouTube DrewBearded, which I am 17 subs away from finally getting my custom URL, because they changed their rules. So if you want to help me out, please press subscribe on my YouTube. It's free. And on Twitch, I am DrewBearded. So everywhere that you could search for something, I am DrewBearded. You will see my beard baubles and my holiday hair, and I will love to meet you in person.
And I do want to say that when I told, like, as I've been getting to know like my Twitch family, I call them, I tell my wife about everybody that I kind of like hang out with. I'm like, you got to see Drew's hair. Like, I'm in love with Drew's hair. Like, because you had, like, it was the black but with the brown, and I was like, look at it, look at that, like, and look at his beard, because I don't do the beard, because after a certain number of days, I'm like, I can't stand it anymore. Shave it off.
You got to push past it. If you want that beard, you got to push past it.
But I was like, you got to see this guy I'm gonna be recording with, because look at his hair.
I appreciate that, man. I try to keep it fresh, because funny story about the hair. I never dyed my hair permanently until I started streaming. I never did it because I never had the ball. I was like, I can't pull that off. I always wanted lime green hair when I was a kid. And my mom was like, no, you can't dye your hair. And then as I got older, I was like, I'd rather get tattoos. And I got the tattoos. And then like finally I was like, I got an inspiration. I was like, hairdresser, Linda, what do you, if I were to get a color, what do you see in my hair? And she's like, you know what? I see like a pop of red. And I'm like, you know what? Let's try it. And so here we are. Now it's my logo. Now it's me. And I love it.
That's awesome. Well, I have to say, Drew, it has been a pleasure having you on the podcast. And
Thank you so much.
It's been an equal pleasure getting to be a part of your community.
Heck yes, dude. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so happy you tune in each week. I'm so happy to see that name pop up and give you that welcome. It's been a pleasure. This has been a wonderful experience. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.